In this video made in association with Doncaster Cables, we're going to be looking at departures from regulations and how different cables fit in with this. We will also see how departures from the regs is not necessarily a bad thing. We will also be seeing if you can use SY or not at the end of the video, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And remember, this video is one in a series of videos that we've made in association with Doncaster Cables. They can be viewed individually, or you can watch them as part of a free online training package to help you with your CPD, and you get a certificate to prove you've completed the course. When you think of the word departure, what does it conjure up? Perhaps an omission, a defect, or a non-compliance in an electrical installation. Well, there has been a lack of definition in previous editions of the regulations, which has caused confusion amongst electricians. We can now find in part 2 of BS 7671 in definition the description for departures, which is a deliberate decision not to comply fully with the requirements of BS 7671, for which the designer must declare that the resulting degree of safety is not less than that achievable by full compliance. It's a bit of a tongue twister, so let me break this down with a cable we all know. This cable here is one I'm sure we will recognise, a 1.5mm squared PVC flat twin and earth cable. Oh, Cole! This cable conforms to BS 6004, which is the standard for electric cables that are PVC insulated and PVC sheathed for voltages up to and including 300 to 500 volts for electric power and lighting. And as this cable has that standard, it can now be included into BS 7671. And we can see the inclusion of BS 6004 in table 4A3, which is a schedule of cable specifications. This cable, however, does not have a BS number, but it looks exactly the same as this one. Well, that's because this cable is the EarthSure from Doncaster Cables. It's still a 1.5mm cable with a 1mm CPC, but can you spot the difference? If you said that the CPC on the EarthSure is sleeved, then you're right. The cable comes pre-sleeved, but it does not have a British standard number, so does that mean we can't use it? Well, if we remember back to the description of a departure, it said that we as the designer need to ensure that the departure is as safe as if it would be if it was included in the regulation. What this means, if we want to use this cable, then it has to be as safe as this cable. And that is not that hard to prove. On the side of this cable, it tells me that it has BASEC approval. So the British Approval Service for cable have tested it and it's passed to the same requirements that a cable to BS 6004 would need to, which is the standard expected for twin and earth cable. Oh, Cole! Sorry, twin and CPC. Now I do appreciate that some people may not want to take the manufacturer's word on a new and innovative product. But when these products are third-party tested to the same, if not a higher standard than what is required by British standards, we can be satisfied that we have ensured that this cable meets the same level of safety as this cable. It is still a departure though, because this cable is not recognised yet. So if you are installing it, it's important that you record it. But where do we record this departure? Well, the 3 certificates we use when completing any electrical work are an Electrical Installation Certificate or EIC, an Electrical Installation Condition Report or EICR, and a Minor Electrical Installations Work Certificate or Minor Works. Using the model forms from BS 7671, we can put the details of departures in part 1 of the Minor Works here. On the EIC, I input the departure here for the construction as I have installed the EarthSure cable. We can also see that the designer of this installation has already specified EarthSure cable as part of the design process, as well as another cable we're going to have a look at in a moment. The inspection and testing departure will remain blank for now as the EarthSure has been notified by the designer and the installer. An EICR can be a little different as the cables are potentially already installed and been in use for some time. Also, as the cable is brand new, there's probably not that many EICRs out there where EarthSure is listed as a departure. Rather more, the departure would have been notified on the EIC. Even so, if you're carrying out an EICR with EarthSure cable accessible, then we would note that in the observations. Another departure is the EV Ultra, the same cable we looked at in video 4. It has a tough carbon tech sheathing and shares a data cable with the power. The innovative design of this cable and the rigorous testing it has been through to get its BASEC approval means that when we use it, we are affording the same level of safety as we would if we were installing a recognised cable type in BS 7671. And as with the EarthSure, we can put the details of the EV Ultra in part 1 of the Minor Works. On the EIC, we can again record as the installer, and we can see the designer from earlier has recorded the EV Ultra as a departure. And finally, the observation section of an EICR. But what about cable which may be imported and although look like a standard cable, actually has not been through the rigorous testing required for British standards? This cable here has been imported in as it is a lower cost alternative compared with a British manufacturer like Doncaster Cables. Both these cables look identical and the markings on them would suggest they are. But are they? Well, no. This cable is manufactured by Doncaster Cables and as such made to meet the British and harmonised standards for low smoke, zero halogen cables. And the composition of this cable meets those standards and will not emit dangerous smoke and fumes if it's in a fire. This one, however, is made with much cheaper materials and a lower copper density, something that can only be recognised by testing in a laboratory. And with cheaper imported cable coming into the UK market, we are running the risk of installing a cable we think conforms to standards, but actually it doesn't. And it's not just flexible cable like this one. Many cable types are imported into the UK and don't meet the standards required. Even wholesalers have been caught out by this. So should we be paying more attention to where our cable comes from? Well, yes, we should. Cables in an electrical installation are perhaps one of the most heavily regulated parts of the install. So make sure your cables are coming from trusted manufacturers like Doncaster Cables. Love it or hate it, this cable has divided electricians for years. Initially developed as a control cable, it's found itself creeping into power circuits for a number of years. And it must have its place. I mean, apprentices are required to install some of this during that assessment they do under a controlled environment. So why is this cable so divisive and should we be using it on power circuits? SY cable is a non-standard cable according to section 7.9 of the on-site guide, where it says that the installation of SY, CY and YY cables is discouraged. It also goes on to state that these cables are not made to British or harmonised standards and that although some manufacturers will say it's okay, this is not enough for BS 7671. It's worth reminding ourselves that cables not only need to conform to British standards, but that they have to be rigorously tested by third-party organisations like BASEC, so we as installers can have confidence in the cables that we are selecting. So what should SY be used for? Well, it's a control cable which should send signals to equipment like conveyors, elevators, assembly lines, and for where I always used to see it, air conditioning units, so the internal unit could talk with the external unit. But what is clear about SY is it should not be used outdoors or for installations that need to meet the requirements of BS 7671. And as we can see from these examples, when installed outside, they can let in water and be damaged very quickly by UV radiance, causing the insulation to go brittle and degrade. Furthermore, they are not designed to carry a fault current. I've seen examples of SY cables used on EV installations, and if a short circuit was to occur, this would cause the braiding to melt and potentially cause fire due to the heat from the cable. So what's the takeaway from all of this? Well, yes, it's a very pretty cable to look at, but SY cables should only be used where it's supposed to be used. And if you're unsure, always refer back to the manufacturer's guidance and the cable manufacturer as well. So there we have it. I hope you've enjoyed watching this series of videos on cables, and I've planted that seed of curiosity that not all cables are created equally. I want to thank Doncaster Cables for supporting this series and showing me the manufacturing processes and innovative cables like the EV Ultra, EarthSure and PV Ultra. Be sure to check out the other videos that we've done on the EV and PV Ultra as well. But remember that this video is one of a series of videos that we've made in association with Doncaster Cables. They can be viewed individually or you can watch them as part of a free online training package and receive a certificate to prove you've completed the course. But until then, it's bye-bye for now.